Hey guys, Bethany Summersizzle here. So just in a few seconds, we're going to be interviewing Adrian Tofei, the director and star of Be My Cat. Now, if you're not familiar with Be My Cat, we do have a video that you can check out.
Or you could also watch the movie. Do both.
Do both. Adrian Tofei is a Romanian filmmaker who turned his one-man show into a found footage horror film. And it is one of my favorite found footage horror movies. He's tall, he's handsome, Whoa, what are you doing? I'm talking about Adrian Tofei.
I have to set up the intergalactic transmission device so that we can talk to him. The man lives all the way in Romania.
Hey, where do you want this?
What are you messing with right now?
Adrian, are you there? Can you hear us?
I'm hearing you.
Yep, there he is.
Yeah, see me. Okay, all is
Can
good.
you see us?
Why can you have me behind you? So cool.
Oh, you're not just behind us. But let me just pick up something really quick.
Oh, it's everywhere. Oh my God. It's just like a damn real. This is crazy, huh?
I don't know how Anne Hathaway feels.
No.
This is on your website, I think. I'm not sure.
Ah, now I
Yeah,
recognize because the colors look different here. Yeah.
But we're obviously very fond of you.
I can definitely see that. Okay.
I think it's Adrian. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the invite, and yeah, you've succeeded in creeping me out a little bit. You know, like Timmy said, like making me feel the way Anne Hathaway feels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wearing my face everywhere.
We're glad that you feel that way. In all honesty, we want to welcome you with open arms because, Adrian, this is Aliens on Fire. That's our intro.
I'm excited about this conversation. Bethany has lots of experience in entertainment on stage, and I have experience in filmmaking. I come from a filmmaking background, so I've got some filmmaking questions for you, and Bethany's got some
Very random
questions for you. And
for you.
also, before we get to the first question, we've watched many of your interviews, and we want to make sure that we're not repeating the same old questions that you get time and time again. We want this to be a nice, original, unique experience for you. So the first question, Bethany.
With that being said, why Anne Hathaway?
You never got my question, right?
That question. We know you haven't got that question.
Yeah. This is a question that's asked, but it's a must, right? I mean,
Yeah.
We were just
No.
we're trolling. We're trolling.
you're trolling. I thought you actually want me to answer. Okay.
Nah.
Yeah, and it's everywhere. I mean, it's on IMDb Trivia as well. It's on the movie's website, my website, the interviews. It's this even on Wikipedia, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I guess I will start with a question just about film in general. So what, in your opinion, makes a found footage film a horror movie? Because there's like found footage that's obviously not horror, and there's some that it's thrilling, but it's not quite horror.
In my opinion, what makes it horror? Well, that's subjective, I guess.
That's your
What
opinion.
why exactly? What do I think what horror is?
It does seem like almost all found footage falls into the horror genre.
There are found footage films in all kinds of genres, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like, when does it
So-
kind of cross that threshold from...
But I don't think I have necessarily a definition of horror. I think I just go with other people say that horror is, because there are some discussions about some films, about some say, oh, that's not found footage, that's found footage, and blah blah blah. It's so I generally go with with what the fans say that to be found footage, because
Yeah.
for example, there are some documentaries, although they are not, the footage is not lost and found or anything like that. It's just a fake documentary. There's nothing about being found. But people, a lot of the fans, some of them, they put a lot of the mockumentaries in the found footage genre, but there are other mockumentaries that nobody, not a single person, ever called it found footage, such as classical mockumentaries. This is Spinal Tap, for example. Nobody ever thinks of that movie as found footage. Or Borat, for example. Nobody calls the movie Borat
Yeah.
found footage. But then you have that vampire movie from New Zealand, What We Do in the Shadows. And that one, although technically it's the same type of mockumentary, but just because it has a more horror vampire theme, you find it on tons of found footage lists. So I'm answering a different question. Instead of answering what's horror, I'm answering what found footage, what falls into found footage for me, practically.
It's
I
kind
don't.
of interesting for us because after we were done watching the movie together, because she'd seen it a million times and it showed it,
A million times.
and
As many times as my face is seen as your shirt.
yeah. But afterwards we were like, it's not really horror in the modern sense. It feels more like a thriller because it's not inordinately gory, but that it had more kind of thriller roots than classic horror.
And we're talking about Be My Cat, by the way, for the audience.
Yeah, Be My Cat. I don't know. I definitely, I would say that Be My Cat is horror. So,
Yeah.
but most people put it in the. I mean, I haven't heard so far. I haven't heard. I mean, I've heard criticism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I do read those. I'm curious, but I haven't heard anyone saying that it's not a horror movie. That hasn't happened. I do find maybe from time to time people who are disappointed in the movie, they expect to see some sort of bloodbath and gore, like tons
Yeah.
of gore, and then they have a letdown because it's mostly psychological horror, actually.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely just kind of like our perspective on it, maybe. Like if you think of like Psycho, which was really Hitchcock going more into the horror genre than he ever had. It because it kind of like follows this sort of kindly psychopathic killer. It does still kind of have that more thriller suspense roots than the jump scares and the kind of things we see in modern horror that make that genre kind of weak.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, like I mean, when I did the movie, I remember when I did the film back then, and I submitted myself the Wikipedia, not Wikipedia, sorry, IMDb. I submitted the IMDb page. I remember I put the horror genre for it.
I'll say what was the number one kind of genre bending thing that you did in terms of horror. Like I think she survived and he went as far as he could because the whole point was for it to be a happy ending, which is immensely ironic
That's
given the
what
context.
you wanted for the film, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the ending is anticlimactic, and it's my favorite part in the entire movie. Has always been and still is, I think, the ending.
Yeah.
Because it transcends horror. It transcends the tropes. And I guess I like to do that. I like to push things forward to not. It starts from the tropes. It pays tribute to lots of horror tropes, and also with the meta structure and all that. It pays tribute to cinema itself and to horror cinema itself. But at the same time, I wanted to transcend that, to become something that almost spiritual in a way that you can't explain. All this positivity, like how happy and shiny he is at the end about having children and a family and not having to shoot anymore and nobody dies. Everything is beautiful. We are in heaven. I wanted all this darkness to contrast with this surreal hope at the end that he has. And
The last 15 minutes of the movie that like sold it for me as one of my favorite found footage movies. Oh my gosh. So, Adrian, you don't know this, but we are going to do a random question. We don't even know what it's going to ask.
This is a little getting to know you type game.
Am I going to be asked like all the questions there? No, only some, right?
No, it's just going to go off randomly. So,
Go ahead, flip through it real quick and see if you find one that you really like.
But you are selecting
I
it. You
the
did
first
not take
one.
it random.
wait. Okay, Adrian, which wild animal would you like to tame and keep as a pet? And you can't say cat.
A wild animal to tame and keep as a cat. Wow, such a question. I love this question. It's so sweet. I guess it has to be a big cat, like
Yeah.
It can't be a cat.
It can be a cat. The man loves cats.
Just a second. When you said you can't be a cat, you also mean it cannot be a big cat, like it cannot be a lion, leopard.
All right.
Ah,
It can be a big cat.
I thought you meant like a wild cat.
All right, he wants it to be a cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let me give you both. Okay, let's be fair here to respect your choice as well and your requirement. So I will choose first the one that I would pick ideally, and then I would choose one that is definitely not a cat, not a big cat as well. So if I was to choose ideally, probably I would choose a leopard, probably a leopard. I would choose, yeah. If I cannot choose any feline, what would that be? I cannot choose a feline.
Because I think a hyena is even considered a feline. I think they're considered like in the cat family. Oh,
I don't like hyenas, and I don't
one of my
like.
favorite animals.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
But in The Lion King, they're bullies. So, because they're like dogs.
No, I think I would want like a deer. Yeah, a deer would be nice and sweet.
Oh, nice.
If I may ask, have you traveled outside of Romania? And if so, like, where have you traveled? Where would you like to go?
Yeah, so just recently we've been to Greece. It's a very short, like a 2 or 3 days trip to Thessaloniki, which I absolutely loved. Been there with my wife. Also, some years ago, we've seen a couple of places in Europe like Prague, Berlin, and Budapest. We went during Christmas time many years ago. I wanted to see the Christmas markets because they were so much hype. It was a little bit of a letdown, because it's not. It's just consumerism. Once you are there, just spend money on stuff you don't need. But I love the
Christmas. Is Christmas not a big deal in Romania like it is?
Christmas is a huge deal in Romania, but I wanted to see what the thing, because back then when we went to these Christmas markets, Romania was kind of just beginning to have this beautiful Christmas market. Romania used to be focused more on the spiritual side of Christmas and less on the consumerist part of Christmas. And I've also seen Portugal, with the premiere of my first movie with my first movie would be My Cat. I'm talking as if I have so many.
It feels like you do.
Probably because the projects that I have in mind, they are so real, and I'm so determined to have them see the light of day.
Do you ever plan on coming to the U.S. for your work or for touring with the films or anything?
Back then, I regretted for not going to the North American premiere of Be My Cat at the Nashville Film Festival. This was a general film festival, but it had a sidebar called Graveyard Shift, which was for horror films. But I didn't go because I thought, in my mind was like, oh, this is a general film festival. I saw what other big movies were selected in the main competition, So I thought the genre movies, they won't be important, they won't take the center stage during the festival. So I thought maybe it's going to be a waste of money for me to go. And the huge mistake that was, because I literally won Best Actor.
Oh wow.
If you get it into South by Southwest for any of your future films, that's where we're at. We're in Austin where South by is.
Yeah, unfortunately, my upcoming film was not selected this year.
They're losers. They don't know nothing.
I know you said that while you were coming up with your character, I know that you had the one-man show and everything, but was there any like research you did, like psychological research or serial killers, or were there characters that inspired you, or was it just all like, was that character just all created in your mind?
There was research in the sense that I did watch tons of movies about psychopaths, and
Okay.
I was fascinated with those portrayals, with the actors' portrayals of psychopathic characters and stuff like that. Not necessarily done for the film, but because for years I've been watching, and horror films and stuff like that. So that was already there, that baggage of research. And then there were certain ones that influenced probably more. For example, there was an interview with Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman, the Iceman and the psychiatrist, more specifically. Stuff. He is nothing like my character in Be My Cat, but seeing how their mind works, how these personality disorders work and function. Yeah.
Actually, I'm wondering if you had anything you wanted to ask me because you saw our video, knowing that I was convinced it was real.
Hey, I can honestly say he thinks that it's crazy when people think that it's real.
Okay, I assumed it before we watched it, and then you fed into it.
I fed into it because how could I not?
How could you not?
Well, here's the thing. There are two things that I can say about this. First thing is that, yeah, there are a lot of people, and I think the top most Googled things about Be My Cat is Be My Cat real?
Yeah.
So people watch even the entire movie and think it's real. I'm guessing, or if they don't think it's real, they at least they think that I must be at least a little bit like the character, if not fully. Like something is wrong with this guy. I don't like that because people can either really think that I'm not normal in my head, something like that, or but at the same time, honestly, when I did watch the video and the moment when you were like, just a second, that's not real.
Yeah.
Then at that moment, I felt a little bit of a sadness as a filmmaker because that means that I have failed on making that scene real enough, that blood was not as light and was not looking that bad as it looked on the video because of the way it was lit. And I even tried to back then to fix it a little bit in post. I couldn't succeed. I had a very old rudimentary editing program,
To be fair, the reason I was able to kind of discern at that moment is because I just have so much experience with fake blood, and I just know really well the specifics of how it runs and how it sprays and things like that. I think to your credit, though, it was 100% not the acting that made me go, oh, this is bullshit. I was upset for like a full hour thinking I was watching this guy kill people.
I was a terrible person that was making him watch a snuff film, and I'm like, how do you think I would get access to that?
Because I watch a lot of true crime as well, so and that stuff does get under my skin. But then the second half, there was a totally different kind of anxiety, which is the kind that you get with like Jaws or thriller films.
Wonderful.
Because I really didn't know if your character was going to kill that girl at the end.
That's why I love that so much, like that conversation that you guys have.
What did you think would happen before seeing the ending? Like, did you have any feeling of where it might be going, or could you anticipate where it might be going, or not?
So I thought she was going to die. Like I really did, because you were getting so close. Now I didn't think it was real, but the natural thought process is just like, he's gonna let her say her piece, but he's going to eventually kill her. So I was actually surprised at the end.
Yeah, that was the indication that I gave her during the impro to try to convince me that my real goal is not to make a movie with Anne, but to be with Anne, to use all the tools at her disposal during info to to wake me up to the reality that I'm actually. When I say me, I mean my character. To wake my character up to the reality that he actually is in love with Anne, and that the filmmaking he's doing is just a fuse to get to her, and she didn't know a lot of the obstacles that were coming from me, so she had to on the spot immediately adapt. And it's like there are certain moments when she's going with a strategy, and then I'm saying something, and then oh my god, and then her strategy is a bit ruined. There's a setback.
So it's kind of the opposite of
Sonia.
Sonia. Yeah. You were telling her to like find a way to get out of the situation, like rejection or something.
Yeah, with Sonia, it was a more complex thing as a character. There were 3 typologies of girl, and I had in mind certain typologies when I did the audition, when I found the girl. The last one had to fit the final girl typology more. The second one, Flory, had to fit kinda the victim, the ones that gets brutally murdered, and the first one was a sort of warm up introduction.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a particular reading about your character in it, and I'd love to know if this was close to accurate at all, because he has that whole kind of childlike thing about him. It seemed to me the way he was treating the women, to him it wasn't mean or disrespectful, it was all part of the process. He, in his heart, it's like if the women survived being murdered by him, they would understand. They would just be like, oh, thank you for letting me be a part of this, or oh, I see why you had to do that.
There was no survival at any point. Them, I don't know.
They were
them being grateful, and in the afterlife,
yeah,
that they lived for something great and died for it.
I love that. It's the whole movie from his perspective is just it's a pretty happy story with a happy ending. It all kind of goes his way by the end of it.
What do you think like happens at the very end?
Yeah, we've speculated what happens to your character after the movie.
Yeah, do you just like travel off like do you're going off to see Anne?
So first of all, I can't be sure. So I also have guesses, because I haven't thought beyond that point, I haven't written anything beyond that point, and also I haven't improvised anything beyond that point to see what my character would feel, what would be his psychology beyond that point. So
I feel like that character doesn't have his passport. Because he made it.
Yeah. Look. If I had the money and the budget,
yeah,
I would have continued film with him going and wreaking havoc in LA and stuff like that.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Probably he would try probably to reach Anne Hathaway with what happened, caught, apprehended or not, if he actually ends up in LA, changes his mind on the way to there and decides, this is too big for me, I can't. I don't know, it's I don't know.
It's time for another random question.
But can I choose this time the location where the question is being taken from? Like, can I choose?
Oh, do you want to choose?
Oh,
Choose.
Oh yeah. Here, I'll do this, and you say when.
That there. Okay. Good.
If you could go to the Olympics, in what sport would you choose?
Wow, that's really a random question. So what sport would I choose at the Olympics? Definitely running, because from time to time I do run and I like pushing myself, and probably not speed, probably something long distance running.
What's the one where they pass the baton? Where you just have to run to the first person and you give them the baton and then they take over and you're done running?
I don't like that. I actually don't like that.
Oh boy, we have a crumb right here. Hold on. There's a little crumb on your nose.
I don't think it's come off.
No, there's
You're
another
stepping
one.
on my headphone cord.
Well, fixing some things.
Everything needs a little touch up.
Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, I can hear you very well. I can see you very well. All is good. You guys are the first ones who went that far with the fandom part.
And that's what makes you better than Anne Hathaway, because she won't even admit to having seen your movie, which I know she has, and you came back a second time, even though you knew how nuts we were. I was interested in For Be My Cat. How did you approach the comedy in that? Because there's a lot of kind of like awkward laughter. There's some moments, especially with your character, that are just flat out funny. And comedy in horror usually is based on the victims being kind of obnoxious and making the audience sort of like detach from them so they can enjoy their deaths. But your victims were really like sympathetic, and all of the kind of like comedy relief came from your character.
Yeah, I think that again something that kind of came from the character that I played in the one man show before the movie. That also was like a combination of dark comedy and a horror. I kept that into the movie, but without being a full comedy film. Like I didn't want to make a movie that would, I don't know, that would have the necessarily the comedy genre on IMDb. I still wanted it to be a horror movie, but definitely moments of of dark comedy.
Now, Bethany was asking last time about doing research with psycho killers and psychology. For me, the funniest aspect was how many shitty, self-centered filmmakers I've known. Before you made this film, did you work with a lot of those types of filmmakers that are kind of their ambitions are beyond their own grasp? And
Not at all. I wish I had worked with filmmakers in general, because one of the reasons why I did this movie, because you finish the acting college and also my master's, so I was struggling to find jobs as an actor, not just a job. I was super passionate. I couldn't even find that in theater in Romania, like even less so in film. Like secondary reason, like or third or fourth reason why I did Be My Cat is to uh give myself an acting job in my own films. Like if nobody else is going to create opportunities for me, I'm going to create my own opportunity into films.
it was absolutely spot on with those kinds of filmmakers that I've worked with a lot in LA and other areas, who, because again, I thought it was all real. So I was like laughing uncomfortably because I was like, I know this is like something bad's gonna happen, but
Yeah.
this guy's nuts.
Timmy even brings up, like, if you remember in the video that we did, he's like, no, I've worked with filmmakers like this, so that made it even more real.
I think the reason why it got close to the reality that you have known working with people, it's because his directing and ways, my character's method of directing actors is actually inspired from reality, from the way some of the methods that our teachers in the acting schools used to direct us when we're working on certain scenes and theater plays and stuff like that. But they are pushed to extremes. So practically I took some of the actual methods that are used, and for my character I pushed them to extremes.
But yeah, it's
You had a contract for these ladies.
Yeah.
so my ultimate cap all Be My Cat question that's been on my mind since the first time I saw it. When your character is talking about Be My Cat the movie, what is that movie? Was there did he have a plan? Do you know the plan for that movie and what it was going to be about?
The plan for that movie, well, here's the thing. I don't think my character had a very detailed plan for that movie. I didn't go into those details because
Yeah.
I knew how the movie is going to end. So not the actual, there was some information, but I didn't know the details. But I knew the direction where I wanted him to go, which is that he's just using this filmmaking thing because he's not willing to accept the actual reason why he wants to get in contact with Anne Hathaway. So he's just using this as an excuse to get in touch with her. So since he's doing that, he's not going into very deep details on that movie because that's already not something that he necessarily wants to make. So I don't have those details because my character didn't necessarily have them.
I actually appreciated the lack of detail and the lack of exposition from your character's perspective. I actually really appreciated that because I feel like that would have detracted from the reality of it, because that's a movie convention, that's a storytelling convention, to be like, here's the serial killer's plan, here's what he's going to do, and it was so sporadic that it also again reminded me of those kinds of filmmakers who kind of have like an idea but they don't really know how to express it right.
This is so good. Yeah. Yeah. I can understand that. Yeah. I have an idea. I never thought of it. Yeah. Interesting. I'm glad you saw that connection.
Yeah, that was kind of a beautiful aspect of it for me, and that added to the me being bamboozled and fooled by.
That was the beautiful moment for me when I didn't even know until the day of. I just and then I'm like, what do you think about me as a person? If I just had this like
Look, I don't
film that was
I don't necessarily want to speak out of turn about you again, Bethany, but again, if there's one person in my life that I would expect to have a snuff film, or she doesn't. She doesn't.
By the way,
it's okay.
I know how Timmy first learned about Be My Cat because I saw it, but I don't know about you, Bethany. How did you first time how did you first hear about the movie?
So, it was not as exciting of a situation. It was mostly because I'm obsessed with found footage films, so I just try to see as many as I can. And me and my ex at the time, we just happened upon, and I'm not gonna lie, this cover, the Be My Cat cover, yeah, this is
Oh, not that one, the one with the
no,
fish.
but I'm saying I think that this was also a covering. You said that this was a little bit too misleading.
The old one,
makes it
but
like
you are
a
pointing toward
slasher.
something. You are pointing, but I don't see what you're pointing. You
Oh,
really?
that's what I'm pointing at.
He can't see it.
No, I don't see it. It's not seen. I only see you guys and my face
Wait,
and something. and-
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. This one. Yeah. I felt it was a bit misleading. Yeah. Because it's it could have given people the feeling that it's a bloodbath and it's.
But I saw the one that, is behind you right now, and I just thought that looks so interesting, and I didn't know I didn't know what to expect. And wasn't like too into found footage at the time. That's definitely like a new thing that I got into. But I was like, this is one of my favorite movies. Like this, I'm not just buttering you up right now. I'm just saying like that's why I was so I tell everybody about this movie. And
Do you remember what
movie.
streaming platform it was?
I do not.
No.
It's interesting that you were drawn in by the cover because the first one, the one that I said was maybe a bit misleading. That one was made by myself, like the design, everything, using a shot from the film. And then when the distributor Terror Film took it, they first did they had to do a new poster because they thought that one is a bit too bloody and it can be banned by social media platforms and stuff like that. So they did a one that I just didn't like at all, So I said, no, please just don't. I said like, oh, you got to do something that is very clear and obvious. Even when it's a very, very small thumbnail, it would still attract attention, So then they came up with this one that we have currently. So I was really happy with this, and I think they did a great job.
They absolutely did. And I think that the other reason the cover kind of draws me in is when I was a kid, I was obsessed with horror movies, like before I could even read. So that was obviously the first thing I would see of a horror movie. And it's like if the cover drew me in, then I would just like get it.
Does that always work for you? Because honestly,
Not
I see
always.
there are some films that they really do incredibly good covers, but then
Yeah.
you check the film and it's not
About found footage and all of that. And this will be a good segue into your upcoming films, because I know you got this kind of spiritual trilogy. Do you plan on like venturing outside of found footage directorially? Do you plan on maybe connecting and doing some acting where you're not directing? Like, what do you see kind of expanding on your career after this?
Yeah, well, definitely, I want so much to act in other directors' films. So that's a huge goal of mine. Um, and then the trilogy and found footage. We put the word to sleep. The second one in the trilogy is uh, both found footage and fake documentary and screen life. So it's not pure found footage. And the third one in the trilogy, pure, it's going to have. I don't want to talk too much. I don't want to disclose. I don't want to spoil the way it's going to be. But it's going to have a found footage connection, but not found footage, not really found footage. And in terms of like
Is it already
career,
in production, or where are you guys at with Pure?
I'm writing the script right now. I'm writing the
Okay.
script, but because it's it's indie and all that, I already have a lot of the vision, of how it should be made. So I have the concept. I even know the camera that I'm going to use. So even before having the script, I know a lot of the stuff. If you are asking in general about what kind of movies am I going to do in this life, well, I surely hope to be given some to direct some sort of studio film. When I mean studio, I don't mean the big studios. I mean indie studios can be cool as well, but as long as I don't do everything by myself, because it's super stressful to do everything by yourself, without
Yeah.
having a team. Yeah, so I would have, whether it would be found footage or not, uh, I don't know. I would like to direct. I would like to direct other stuff. I'm definitely not stuck with found footage. I would say.
This. Oh, sorry.
Hmm.
I was just
Were you
going
gonna
to say,
subjects?
no. I'm not switching subjects. I was saying that your question was kind of a follow up to a question my mom had about it, because she's a fan, and she's really excited about We Put the World to Sleep as well. She just wanted to know like what prompted like your interest in producing and directing horror versus other genres, and my thing was just kind of like, were you interested in like doing other things?
What was the initial appeal of horror? You mean, why did I choose the horror genre?
Yeah, versus like another genre, because found footage can be other types of.
Yeah. I think it started in my childhood, most probably. And Carrie, yeah. I mean, Carrie, Brian De Palma's Carrie was a huge influence for me as a child, and later so many horror films that I've seen at ages that I shouldn't have seen those at those ages, but those
That's
were
what I
the times.
usually think. Whatever.
Yeah, those were the times. So definitely uh, a childhood influence, and then of course I also developed some philosophies, like trying to justify why horror is good and useful in society, uh, such as like putting a mirror in front of the audiences where they can see their darkest subconscious impulses and be able to recognize them and control them in real life. Thus, they become better people. The ones who do watch horror, who are confronted with fictional darkness, they manage to control the real darkness a bit better.
That's the thing that's kind of missing from modern horror, is especially in the big studio ones. It's much more about shock factor.
I don't think I was ever into how do they call these things, jump scares and stuff. I think that's one of the things that never. I remember as a child or as a teenager watching horror, jump scares never got me. I always knew that they would come. So to me, it was about the atmosphere,
Yeah.
entertainment factor, or there were other stuff about horror, and probably also a reason was the commercial one, because I kind of knew from what I've read and from the documentaries I've seen about the film industry, especially in the US. It's kind of harder to launch your career with a movie that it's not harder. It's easier to launch your career as an indie filmmaker with a horror film. Initially, I wanted Be My Cat to be more of a mixture of genres, like not purely, not so much horror, and still a little bit of that is still seen in the movie, but I think it ended up a bit more horror than I intended. I remember, here's the thing, here's an interesting fact. When I finished the film, I wasn't sure how people are going to react to it. So I think I even had options to put the comedy genre on IMDb. I wasn't sure what to, and only when people started watching the movie and people being disturbed or really seeing it as a horror film, only then I was 100% sure, no, this is definitely a horror movie.
See, I can appreciate that because that means that you were more focused on story and character than you were like meeting expectations of a genre.
The only part where I was deliberately trying to respect the horror fans, to give them something they want, is the torture scene, the one with Glory. That's the only one where I don't think I would have done it. It's not necessarily in touch with my sensitivities as a filmmaker, torture and stuff like that, because I was aware that the movie is quite meta. It's quite psychological. But then I thought, I don't want to disappoint horror fans. I don't want to disappoint them with too much psychology and them to watch and then to feel like, oh, but nothing happened in this movie. So I felt like I owe them something. I gotta put something there.
Thanks for watching. Here's a girl getting cut in half.
So, but it's behind the curtain. So I did it, but still twisted it in the psychological zone. Put it in.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I laughed probably too much throughout this film when I first watched it. And one of my favorite lines, I'm not gonna say the exact words right, but you're just like, oh, and something went wrong. I'm sorry. Like when you cut this, and like I fucked up.
When he realizes she's dead.
Oh, yeah, basically,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like,
Oh,
oh,
and
sorry,
she's
Anne.
not breathing. She's
Like,
not
I just,
breathing,
like,
and there's a lot of blood. Yeah, I know.
so messed up, but I love it because your delivery of everything is just you're like evil but innocent and crazy.
Yeah.
But
He's endearing.
endearing, so endearing.
I think the Norman Bates of found footage.
Oh my gosh, there you go.
Yeah.
Like you really like Norman Bates when you first meet him. He's kind of boyish and and very likable.
Charming.
Yeah.
That was definitely an influence, like that type of character. And although Psycho was such a huge influence on cinema and on the horror genres, there aren't many movies that copied this. Copied the fact that, oh, there's a psychopathic guy who kills women, in all the slashers, but they did not copy this paradox, the fact that, oh, he appears so sweet, and this was brilliant, like, and by the way, I haven't read the novel, but I've read that in the novel he's a kind of a repulsive guy, if I'm not mistaken. Has any of you read the
No, we don't read.
Huh.
I don't know how to read.
Yeah,
So
we're
you
illiterate.
tell me everything.
You had the lead, audiences have nothing to stick to the screen, if everything is grotesque and disturbing from start to finish. So he wanted a guy who is the opposite of the guy's actions, who looks like and like the opposite of the guy.
Well, speaking of somebody that doesn't apparently look like a killer, my mom thought your character was adorable. She just kept saying, "Oh, Adrian, he's just so cute, and can't wait to see him in something else." I really liked it.
With the acting, performing, and all of that, are we going to see a different side of you and your skill with the next movie?
With We Put the World to Sleep, you are definitely going to see a different role, from me. I mean, it's a kind of a partial sequel to Be My Cat. There are, I don't want to say in which way. It's not a direct sequel. A little bit part of the same universe, you might say, but of course the story is very different and all that, and also the characters are different. You are going to see a different thing from me in We Put the World to Sleep, for sure.
Okay. Are you planning on being in Pure as well?
I'm not so sure yet. my plan was to not be impure. My plan was to cast myself in a smaller part, maybe.
Mm.
Yeah, I haven't fully decided on that yet. Because I'm an actor and I like acting. I'm not going for the cameo thing, like if I give myself something to act, it's going to be at least 5-10 minutes of footage there. That's
Yeah.
not just me
You
passing
won't
in
just
the
be like in the
background.
mirror or something in the background. Your head just pops up, or like on our pants. You are making several appearances in this
Several
video, by the way.
Everywhere.
Do you want to pick the card again?
No, you pick it up. You pick it this time.
You're gonna pick it up. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna leave this one to Bethany.
They're all Ooh,
Yeah.
what would be on the menu for your ultimate birthday dinner?
Would it be some Romanian dish or something a bit more exotic?
I'm not so sure. Like,
Would it be different from your death row dinner?
It would have to be the opposite.
maybe I would want it to be a surprise for whoever prepares that dinner. Yeah.
A surprise.
Yeah, surprise. I would like
Okay.
whoever makes that to surprise me. Yeah, yeah. The surprise would make me happier than just me picking it up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to dictate foods. I can appreciate that.
What is your favorite food?
Oh, I don't think I have a favorite food. I don't think I have one. I'm sorry, I'm boring.
That's offensive. We're not accepting that apology. We here in America have favorite foods. Damn it.
Okay, let me still make an effort. Possibly something Mexican that is chili. Mexican food really has a way of combining the taste of whatever the food is with it being chili. I don't know, it goes so
Do you
well.
like spicy food?
Oh, like I was really talking to my wife, yeah, because here in Romania, being so far away from Mexico, Mexican food is a bit expensive here, because it's considered kind of a luxury. Very few restaurants do it. America would be a heaven in that regard for me.
I got a question that's kind of outside of filmmaking, because I know very, very little about the revolution in your country, and as I understand it, that was kind of right before you were born, or when you were very young when that happened.
Yeah, I was born in '87, Revolution '89. So 2 years after I was born.
And I've heard you talk about watching movies on TV, and that was kind of your introduction to a lot of cinema. And I've also heard that maybe before that time, that a lot of the movies were kind of like re-edited and censored in Romania.
Oh no, I've never seen censored versions. No. No. So because I was born, I was 2 years old when the revolution happened. So before the revolution, there was censorship in the sense that the movies simply were not shown. The ones that were questionable, they were not taken into theaters and stuff like that. Or if they had maybe a theatrical run where it was limited, I'm not so sure. There were some bootlegs that were circulating. I've heard, people were kind of quote unquote illegally watching them on VCR, watching films on TV. They started to show tons of films in the 90s on TV, like all the ones that maybe couldn't be shown before at all types of hours and without those warnings for children and stuff like that. So that's how I got to see as a child all the horrors of cinema.
It must have just been normal for you growing up right at the beginning of it, but a lot of people must have kind of been in culture shock at the time.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't really think of this actually. Very good point. Maybe I should talk to some people to ask him if. I mean, I know about a lot of other stuff that changed in terms of economy and stuff like that, but I not about movies. I haven't talked with anybody who is old enough to catch that period to ask them if there was a culture shock in terms of the media they were exposed to. Maybe I will. Yeah.
Was there any sort of like backlash, I guess you could say, from like people in your life? But is there anybody that kind of like warned you, like maybe this isn't the best kind of thing to put out there?
Nobody knew that. It's not like it was quite of a singular project, in the development phase. And
You didn't talk to anybody about it.
I talked with my mom, but I also didn't have a big family. It's just
Yeah.
my mom, no brothers, no sisters. I didn't like have many friends, and stuff like that, or people that I was consulting with at the time. I was just this rebel creator who had a dream and a passion and had to do it.
I'm an only child as well. That's why I was saying I
Oh.
relate. And I think that helps a lot with your creativity because I was also homeschooled. I'm not saying I'm not saying this has everything to do with it, but when it's just you have like a crazy imagination. I don't know, like when you don't have all these other influences.
You say you were homeschooled?
I was homeschooled and I was an only child.
Yeah, I wasn't homeschooled. I went to high school, but I was using during high school all my free time. When my classes ended, I used to go to a foundation because at home I didn't have computer or internet. We didn't afford that. There were very scarce times in the 90s after the revolution. So I was going to a foundation that was offering access to internet and to computer for free. So literally almost every day after my classes, I would go there and I would read about film history for hours. I would come home at night, literally. So
That's
all my
fantastic.
yeah, so that's where I developed myself as a filmmaker in those times.
Were you ever running around with a video camera and your friends when you were a kid? And
The first time I used the camera in my life was in Be My Cat.
wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
when I came up with the concept of the film, I could have had a camera, I could have played with it before, but I stopped myself from doing that because I thought, okay, this guy is using a camera for the first time in his life. Therefore, it seems appropriate that I would do the same. Mistakes I would do, they would be justified in character because he's the one doing those mistakes.
That's
That's
great. And
really
that kind of comes up towards the end where he's like, I gotta change the settings because of the light.
I'm curious because I'm a big theater nerd. I loved doing theater. Do you prefer being on stage or do you like film?
Oh yeah, so definitely I wanted film all my life. I ended up doing acting, and I loved it. But in Romania, when you do acting, there's little opportunity to also do film. Kinda theater gets confused with acting, So when you go to study acting in school, it's like the only thing you would do would be theater. But my big passion was for film. So for a very long period of time from the moment I started to do Be My Cat up to now, I only wanted to do film and only film and leave theater behind. But actually this year I started to feel a bit the need again to act on stage to a live audience. Yeah. So
In Be My Cat, was it a lot of first takes or only takes? And is that kind of been and like, did you learn anything from that you kind of brought into We Put the World to Sleep?
no, before We Put the World to Sleep, I aimed for the same thing, to only use first takes.
Yeah.
So I kept the same rule for We Put the World to Sleep.
Do you think we're ever gonna see some B-roll or behind the scenes? I would be so fascinated to see any moments where you guys might have broken character or kind of stopped in the middle of things. And
Yeah, we shot a lot, including that for We Put the World to Sleep. Yeah.
yeah. Do you have some of that from Be My Cat as well? The like moments where character breaking and stuff?
I think I do. Yeah, yeah. But I shared, I think, on the Blu-ray, I think one of them. But usually I'm reluctant to show too much behind the scenes stuff because I don't know. I had this feeling that I'm ruining the magic of the
Yeah.
film. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I kind of feel the same way that like sometimes I avoid that stuff with movies I really love. Like I kind of don't want to see alternate takes or them being out of character because it's like when I revisit the movie, it's gonna kind of like be in my brain a little bit.
No. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I will at some point. But here's the thing: for We Put the World to Sleep, we have a ton of footage, but not bad footage. We have a ton of footage, and it's even good footage.
Yeah.
Because we shot 150 hours in total. If all goes well, we put the world to sleep and it's a success. Then later I might release a lot of extra scenes, as extras. Maybe.
Do you really enjoy the editing process? I imagine you're doing the editing.
No, I hate it. It's such a chore for me. Yeah, it's not like it's extremely hard.
Yeah.
It puts me to anxiety and all the things in the world because I'm using improvisation on the for Be My Cat. I had 25 hours of footage, and it was a more scripted film. Although I didn't have an actual full script, the structure was much more clearer in my mind and on the paper. Before we put the world to sleep, I wanted to push things even further, to apply the improvisation not only to the dialogue but also to the story. I mean, to find the story as we go along. I did have a storyline, but I left some of those things open to change according to our improvisation. So then when you edit, practically when you have something like this, you work like a documentary filmmaker practically.
So Be My Cat, that has that opening text about the 25 hours of footage. There actually was 25 hours of footage.
Yeah. For Be My Cat, that 25. So, but even that was very, very stressful for me to edit because I had to learn everything on the go. I've never edited a film. I never used an editing program in my life. But for We Put the World to Sleep, it was over 100 of hours of footage. Out of that footage, there are thousands of films that, yeah, that's the laptop that brought me sleepless nights and anxiety. Okay,
right here.
exactly. All the pain is there in that laptop. All the pain of editing Be My Cat is there.
We store all the pain there.
In Aliens on Fire forever.
We like to store pain here in Aliens on Fire.
Yeah, and for We Put the World to Sleep, because I had over 100 hours of footage, that could be cut and arranged into 1,000 different movies, depending on which scenes you pick to put in the final cut. You would have a different movie. So it was extremely hard to decide, what's going to be. Let's put that scene back in. No, but then it's different. Let's take it out. And again and again and again, literally took years to edit this film. And that's one of the reasons why Pure is going to be a more scripted project. It's good. Improvisation is very good for the actors. It makes, especially for found footage, this type of realism that improvisation gives is essential, and it has to look real. So that's very important. But really, I pushed it too far with We Put the World to Sleep. When you have so many sub stories and so many things on footage, editing part becomes a nightmare.
I think you're gonna have to share some of the stuff from behind the scenes, because I think your approach to filmmaking is fairly unique and would only benefit the like real shoestring budget independent filmmakers. And are you expanding your crew and like shooting with different like levels of camera and lighting as this kind of trilogy goes forward?
I would love to do that for other films, not for Pure. I think Pure, I might do it again the indie way, but different technology, different approach. But again, the indie way, because this trilogy started the indie way, I think it's going to finish the indie way. When it's a project like this, I'm not crazy about imposing my vision. But when it's this trilogy, this is so personal, that I can't allow interferences.
Yeah. Is it becoming more personal? Be My Cat is personal, but is the next one gonna be more personal than Pure?
More. We Put the World to Sleep is more personal than Be My Cat. Pure is extremely more personal than We Put the World to Sleep.
I was kind of interested in is it Florentina is her name? She's credited in Be My Cat.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Be My Cat. And We Put the World to Sleep. Obviously, she died in Be My Cat.
She's actually not credited in We Put the World to Sleep. Actually, it's an uncredited appearance in We Put to Sleep. Yeah, it's archive footage.
Okay, if you were going to create a new holiday, what would it be and how would people celebrate it?
Are we talking about like religious, spiritual holidays, or
That's just interesting that you even make that distinction because you said before that Christmas used to be much more spiritual and it's much more commercial now. Of course, in America, it has been commercial all our lives, and for decades it's been commercial. I think actually Santa Claus's official look was invented by Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola, yeah.
If for us, there is no distinction. On St. Patrick's Day just means dye the beer green and get drunk. Christmas means lots of presents. I guess that would kind of be which would you prefer? Would you prefer a more spiritual holiday or more of a?
Yeah, I think I would choose maybe, but I would have to think. I'm in Romania here. Most of Romanians are Orthodox Christian, so I would have to think of. That's complicated. I cannot invent a Christian holiday. Let's think of a different kind of holiday.
What do you think is something in your area that doesn't get enough focus, doesn't get enough attention that should be a holiday?
I think they're creating so many. There's like National Redhead Day, there's National Cat Day, there's National. There's
National
everything.
Yeah, is there an international filmmaking day or film day or cinema day? Is there?
There's National Circus Day, so there has to be film.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. International Film Day. And everybody dresses and goes trick-or-treating in film characters, all from movies. Yeah, like all over the streets. Everybody is a huge, all the world becoming a huge movie theater. And
instead of candy, everybody would just get like classic VHS tapes, like in their basket.
And I can kind of see kids being like opening their bag and being like, "Ugh, I got a Michael Bay movie." I was hoping for Jurassic Park. Oh, good job.
He disappeared. You're like magic. You just.
Oh yeah, when I get to.
I love it.
Just the signal here. Something's gone wrong.
Shoehorn.
Oh, the shoehorn.
This is
Okay.
Aliens on Fire in a nutshell. We're falling apart.
I just found out while you were out of the room that the 9 years between Be My Cat and We Put the World to Sleep that he's just been working on We Put the World to Sleep.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Oh.
So, can you break down those 9 years for me? Like, when was it just writing? When did it become camera? When was it pre-production?
Normally it wouldn't have been 9 years if it wasn't for the pandemic. If it wasn't for the pandemic, it would have been probably only like 7.
I guess
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt, but I'll let you get back to your thought. But
No.
were you planning on it being a stretched out production like this when you first started? Well,
I didn't think it would take so long. If I knew that this would take so long, I would have made it maybe more scripted, and I would have approached it differently from the start. I didn't want this to take so long, for sure, for certain. So if we take out the pandemic, probably would have taken like 7 years. Then we've been scammed at some point by a producer who told me like, "Oh, put it on hold, and we are going to do it differently. We are going to do it a TV series and blah blah blah." And that proved to be a fraud. That guy. So if we take out external things that were not under our control, it wouldn't be 9 years. It would be somewhere 5 years actually. In those 5 years that, let's say, were, I would say, under our control, they were partially under our control because of the improvisational nature of because we would and I can give you some examples. We would go in a certain direction with the improvisation, which was very good, let's say over a couple of days or weeks or even months. We were moving in a certain direction, and then we would arrive at the point where we just realized, just a second, like the characters, let's say, like everything that happened before in the improv, everything that we recorded for the past months pointed to a certain direction in the story. So the characters had to go to a certain place, to a certain location, and certain things would have to happen there. And then we would just realize there is no way we can get the budget for that.
Yeah.
So then we would realize that we've been going in a direction that was not doable with the budget at hand, because of this improv concept of discovering the story as we go along. So then we would have to put the production on hold, go back, and change a little bit the psychology of the characters, twist things a bit, like turn things around, and then start doing it all over again in a different way that would not end up in a place where we don't have the money to do it.
Put my world to sleep. Is there gonna be any more
He said,
leading
put my world to sleep.
put my world to sleep?
That's what he said.
The world to sleep. Is there gonna be more political messaging in that and going forward?
I'm it's so bad that my lips are sealed right now, and I cannot talk about that, but hopefully my laugh gave away something. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be something there, and I didn't plan it to be
Yeah.
the way it was. That is going to be, yeah. I mean, we are going to be talking about that for sure. And I'm going to be asked questions about that for sure. I cannot say about. Also, some of my opinions changed. Like if you probably, that's why sometimes I went to some of my old Facebook posts and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, did I write that? I don't believe in that anymore. I deleted those posts, so my opinions changed a lot over the years. I would be, I don't know, a bad politician in that regard, because I see in the US they put a lot of focus on, since the 80s, he has been pushing for the same thing. He's trustworthy. He hasn't changed, but my opinions change constantly. So in terms of
Yeah, so, and that happened over the 9 years with this film. Was there sort of a shift in your beliefs?
yeah, they did a lot, but also partially because they were also influenced by living in character. Partially living in character. So now I'm totally myself. There is no influence anymore from my character.
I guess that kind of flows into a question I was going to ask, but you already kind of started it, and you just gave an example. I was just wondering, like, how do you pass the time? Like, if it's like a year and you're inside, like, what would
Yeah.
you be doing? Like, what would your character be doing? What would you be doing? Like.
Yeah. Just an example that I gave you with
Yeah.
with Be My Cat. As far as I remember, I think I was watching films about psychopaths, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I was watching found footage films, and probably.
Did you spend any time uncomfortably obsessing over Anne Hathaway as part of that?
I know. Yeah, that's a thing that people can imagine that I do. No, not at all, actually.
No.
Because that's how I prepared for this video. I like just obsessed over you. Yeah. No.
Did you ever, like, just with delving into that character, did you get to a line where you kind of scared yourself a little and you were like, oh, just even psychologically, like, oh, that's a really dark place my mind just went? Like, that's something that happens to your character where he goes, oh, I'm crossing this line. I'm not sure if I'm
A moment like that happened and actually traumatized me. It was during the torture scene. I had a moment when I was so much into it, and I caught myself. She was screaming in pain there, supposedly, and I caught myself in this moment, like having this smiling and singing and having this pleasure of another human being being at the suffering of another human being, and I felt so bad inside. That was really disturbing. Like, it took me a while to, but now when I think of it, I find it disturbing. So like for a second, it felt too real. And
So what then is kind of the opposite of that? Where do you and Adrian, the character in Be My Cat, what do you guys have the most in common? What about him do you really relate to?
Interesting. Maybe towards the end, when he says that he got bullied. I did get bullied in elementary school and the first year of high school. Thankfully, then the bullies left the class to another class. So the last 3 years of high school were much more fun.
That's such a great answer because I don't remember who said it, but that the difference between a hero and a villain is heroes, when they experience trauma, they say, I'm not going to let this happen to anybody else. And when a villain experiences trauma, they go, okay, now the world owes me and
Yeah.
I'm going to hurt people.
I didn't necessarily think of this thing when I wrote this character, but yeah, you had to
I
obviously.
love that part, by the way.
Obviously, yeah, I know. That's one of the coolest. The people love it. Yeah.
That's part of
The whole time, like, girls are not innocent and sweet, and yeah. But no, I'm curious about that.
Did that kind of come from the one-man show, or?
I'm not so sure where this came, but I know that I came up with it. Maybe it's inspired from me getting bullied, because I was not bullied by girls, I was bullied by boys. So maybe inspired from this.
We do not want to hold you up. We are coming like to about time. I think we have like one random question, but I don't know if there's something we would rather ask. I think I asked the majority of my questions.
I just want to know more about the upcoming movies, which
Yeah.
you won't share much about. But hopefully, you'll come back when the movie premieres, and we'll be able to.
I would
talk
love
more about it.
to. I would love to. Yeah, and yeah.
When should we expect to see We Put the World to Sleep, and when should we expect to see Pure?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting. It was not selected in these big festivals in Cannes, for example, in Sundance. So I'm waiting for other festivals. I've submitted it to a number of festivals. So I'm waiting to hear from them. Yeah, hopefully sooner than later, but definitely this year.
I mean, if we have to pull a David Lynch and like stand outside somewhere with like a cow or something and just like promote we
We'll
will
go out there
crush
in these t-shirts.
in these shirts, and we will start a ruckus.
We'll wake the world up till We Put the World to Sleep.
Yes.
Hopefully you will enjoy. Or if you don't, nonetheless, I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
So then, when should we expect to see Pure? Because I'm thinking you're going into that saying, I am going to shoot for this long and be done with production.
No, Pure is not going to take 9 years. Pure is not going to even take 5 years. Once I have the final story and the script, we are shooting it, and in 1 year I want it done. Hopefully there is a chance for Pure to see the light of screens in 2027.
Ugh. Should we do that one? That's a
Yeah.
yeah. No, this one's
Okay.
what? Would you stick by your friend if they became disfigured? No, we already did food questions. Oh, that's a good one.
Okay. Would you travel into space if you could to visit us? We're on the
Space.
In the fire, yeah.
Yeah, I think Katy Perry just went to outer space, so
Yeah.
it's the trendy thing now.
I don't think I would go. There isn't anything to see there. It's kind of empty. Moon is empty as well. I mean, all these planets are dead here. There's not much to do there.
Sounds kind of boring.
Only maybe if it was that safe as going with the elevator and very cheap, maybe I would just go and see okay, so I've seen the planet from afar. Maybe just for the feeling of actually not to be in space. Maybe just for the feeling of being in how do you say it in English? Imponderability.
Vulnerability.
No, when you're there, the lack of gravity.
Lack of gravity. That's it. Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing. I would definitely travel through time.
When to?
Where? Yeah. Wait.
I think mostly to the past, I guess. I think I wouldn't want to spoil the future because I already know what's going to happen. I'm planning something related to time travel in one of my future films. I'm not saying which one.
You have a lot of surprises ready for us in the future, and are super excited about it. So, well, thank you for joining us here on Aliens on Fire, Adrian. And we hope to talk to you in the future about the upcoming films.
Thank you so much for the invitation and the support. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Hey, you wanna do our outro?
Yeah, so I'm Adrian, or Adrian, the Romanian pronunciation, and this is Aliens on Fire. Now I really need to go because look, my mom has been calling me the second time now.
She thinks you got abducted by us.
Yeah, because you are aliens, obviously.
We are aliens.
And we have this.
Of course, you took pictures of the person you are looking for on Earth. You know, you're like wanted.
We hung this outside the ship and with a big sign that says, "Have you seen this man?" And we're just
Right, and then we're gonna turn into you. So we're just gonna be walking around like as you.
Gonna turn into me. Oh my gosh.